Tonight we're studying Deuteronomy 8, chapter 8 and chapter 9. We'll be going through two more chapters because they're relatively short. Verses 1 and 2 of 8. Every commandment which I command you today, you must be careful to observe, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land of which the Lord swore to your fathers. And ye shall remember that the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you and test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. Now I'm trying to stay in here so it don't. Is that ringing too much for you? I can hear it, but I don't know if you can hear it. Okay. It's behind me, so it should be okay, but if it bothers you, I'll turn it down.
It's great.
I maxed it out for y'all, just for y'all. Okay. So, he's gone through the 10 Commandments and told them about that. There's a lot more, okay, that he hadn't gone through. He went through the first time, okay, with the fathers and the forefathers and them. But he's not gone through all that. But he said, every commandment which I command you today, and evidently he's going to go through some more, and we know we will, to 8 and 9 and all the way to like 30. He's going to keep going over these commandments to get them in their minds, because these kids, technically kids, even though some of them are up to 60 years old, they were just young ones. The Joshua and Caleb is the oldest, probably. We don't know how old they were, but they were at least, well, they were exempt. So we really don't know until you get to the end when it talks about Joshua and when he died. I don't know about Caleb. I think it tells us too, his history too, later on. But, so, he's just calling them to remember again. I mean, each chapter, each one of these, remember, 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 remember. It's just echoing to them that something happened 40 years ago, and you need to remember that. How can we apply that today?
Now what?
How can we apply something that happened 40 years ago or more?
The Jewish people.
That's right, the Jewish people, the Holocaust. A lot of people say that didn't really happen. My bug's in here doing some stuff. So
They don't remember.
they don't remember. They think it's false.
Then they don't know how to relate it when it
Exactly. Darla and I have had the privilege to go over there, and we were at Dachau, one of the prisons in Germany, when my aunt was over there. I've read a lot about Buchenwald and several of the others. Buchenwald was where my uncle was interned. Okay, Uncle Pence, Uncle Vernon. He was there for a year and a half or 2 years, I think, when he got caught. So people don't realize, they don't, it's like anything else. They're talking about this now, how the most important thing right now is, at least the news, is the people aren't getting their SNAP benefits. Yes. 3 months they will not, once they do the continual resolution and all that, they won't remember that. People don't, they have short memories.
No.
This is already, it's become the longest, but did you know that it's over 35, the longest was 35 days. There have been 35 days with Trump, I think last time they did it, 31 days with Obama, like 28 days with Clinton, and I don't know how many times, 5 or 6 times in the last few presidents.
And they're supposed to keep up with all that.
Well, that's statistics most people don't care about, and they think, oh, this is the first time this has happened, this is terrible. All the kids, they don't know, they don't realize it, and that's what is so important here. Moses is trying to put it into them. This is important, this happened. We crossed a Red Sea, you understand that. The sea was there, and then it wasn't, because of God. We didn't have anything to eat, 2 million people or more, and we just brought what we had. They ran out in the first few days. Then we didn't have water. God provided the water. It's just, we are so, even today, it's even worse. Our attention span is about 30 seconds, because that's about all we can read on TikTok or Facebook or something, and if it, oh, I just go on by it, I don't care what happens. You know, you don't read the whole story. I'm that way, I read it, I said, it's a 15-minute read, oh, I don't wanna read that. You know, it takes too long. But we do, we need to get into it and read, and especially history, because what do they say? History repeats itself. It repeats itself. And that's what he didn't want happen, because it happened with their forefathers. They started serving gods after, other gods, after Moses went away for 40 days. It seems like a long time. Doesn't seem like a long time to us. But if President Trump took off and we didn't hear from him for 40 days, people would be crazy. They'd be signing and trying to get somebody else in there. That's the way they were. They thought he'd gone. They thought he'd died. God had already taken him, and we're going to do our own thing. And Moses is telling them, you've got to remember this. Keep it in the forefront of your mind. It's so interesting to me, the way they brought up the Jewish people from this time forward. That's what Moses was trying to put into them and instill in them. Tell your children, tell your children's children, tell your children's children, you know, just all the way down. And that's what they did for a long, long time. Now you've got a bunch of them that went off after the Babylonian dispersal, well, Roman dispersal actually in 70 AD. Once they were dispersed, there are a few still around in Palestine.
Are these the ones
So,
that, not the original ones, but the younger ones?
yeah, these are all the young, all the others are dead.
So there's some where we didn't experience that,
Yeah.
so we don't remember.
Yeah, we don't remember, and that's what he's trying to tell them.
It's kinda like, no big deal to us, we weren't there.
That's right, but he's telling them, look, this is what happened. These are the situations they faced, and these are the decisions they made, and it was wrong. And we don't want you to do the same thing. It's easier to fall into the same trap, thinking that I gotta do it myself, I gotta find out for myself, than to listen to somebody that's done it and says, that ain't gonna work. Fought that all the time at work. Because I'd been there 35 years or 40 years, almost 41 years when I was there, different places, but they didn't want to hear me say that. That's basically what I was told. They don't want to hear me say that ain't gonna work. I said, well, I've seen it before and it didn't work.
They don't look at it.
You know?
They don't look at it.
I worked for Oxy, you know that, Cities and Oxy.
See, I
Yeah, you remember that.
I think of city service.
I did. I worked for City Service 4 years before they converted over to Oxy, yeah. So, but that's part of it. They don't want to hear that. The new kids, the young kids, they don't want to hear that. Now, it's kind of the 20 to 40 year olds that's in this trap. Okay?
I don't think it affects them.
Well, today, I'm saying it's the 20 to 40 year olds today that they don't want to believe anything they hear, except who they want to listen to. The younger set, the 20-year-olds and under, the Gen Z, I guess I call them, they're actually listening. They're actually doing things. They're actually, learning for themselves because they have seen that, I can't rely on what mom and dad did or grandma and grandpa or whatever. I got to find out this stuff myself. And so they're learning. Not that they're going out and doing it, but they're learning the history that happened. That's just exactly what Moses was trying to instill in his people, that look, you've got to remember this and pass it down, because otherwise it's going to be forgotten and you're going to start repeating your mistakes.
But like if the young people today, oh, that was back then, I don't care about that.
I know, but that's what he's fighting against.
Okay, that was my grandmama's days.
One of the things I think about is my generation, raising my kids' children, my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted her, I had it, I think pretty good as a kid, but I had it a lot better than my parents.
Sure.
And I was thinking the other day, I don't know a lot about my dad from the time that my grandmother, say he was up, till he got married, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that he never talked about.
Right.
Because he didn't want me to have to go through that stuff.
Right.
But what happens is when we don't teach, and that's our our generation, what that generation before them has went through, and the mistakes they made.
Right.
You know, that's part of our responsibility is to raise up the next generation.
That's right. That they don't have to be clones of us. They shouldn't be. Okay? They should have their own personalities, and, you know, sometimes they'll go off on the mark. But we pray for them, and we, you know, hopefully they'll come back into the fold if you know, that happens. So, kind of like one of the guys that I used to work with, I've heard it a couple different ways. You have more than 4 or 5 kids, you're going to lose 1 or 2. I mean, not die, but they're going to not do what they're going to do their own thing. I had one guy I heard was telling them about, I think my mom, no, it wasn't that, it was somebody else, but they said they had like 8 or 10 kids. And he goes, 8 or 10 kids, one of them's got to be a convicted murderer somewhere. You know, and we just died laughing. We just like, yeah, they just blurt that right out. It's probably true, but you know, odds are. But that's kind of the way it is. That we, you know, so we just gotta keep it. What he's trying to educate them, telling them what's going on. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's why that's why this Deuteronomy is just a repeat of basically Exodus. Okay, because these guys hadn't heard it before, for the most part. Their parents may have told them, but if they died when they was, you know,
But
5, 6 years old.
if they didn't want to pay attention, they wouldn't be carried anyway.
Well, it seems like, in watching The Chosen and watching some other shows based on older stuff,
Yeah.
they don't have the influences pulling them. TV, radio, cars, whatever. Their job was fishing. So they knew how to go out and go fish. Or their job was a farmer. So that's what they did every day and night. They'd get up, go out and plow, or go out and reap, or go out and do whatever that they had to do that day. And that's what they did. And then they came back in. They didn't watch television. What happened is the family got around, he'd start telling stories. You know, the father, grandfather, whatever, because they lived kind of in
I think all, we need to do that now.
We do, but the kids don't sit down.
Kids don't know nothing.
Once you get a little older, and especially with me doing my genealogy now, I wish I'd asked Dad more questions, you know, when he was still around.
I tried to
And
get
even my grandpa.
but I tried to get
You
my
know.
mom to talk to me about it when I got diagnosis, and then when I got kidney disease, she wouldn't talk to me about the family situations.
Yeah, well, sometimes you do that, but
I see, because she didn't like that kind of stuff, and
yeah.
so I still don't understand.
But that's where we, you know, we kind of get to, and even today, we find that today. Some of my family, the only time we really get together is when one passes away. You know, I just had my last
Some don't want to talk about
uncle.
history.
Right. But you know, if you do, you got some of them that'll talk. I mean, I have a couple of uncles that will talk a lot.
was raised not to talk about it.
Well, that's, you know, it could be, but still yet, you can find somebody that'll usually talk about it. And talk about how they were raised. I mean, Darla's dad, he's been talking to me about what they, you know, we usually get together maybe every other Friday night or something, and they're all playing cards and doing their thing, playing their games. We sit in there, and before, we talk for a while, then we pass out. We start visiting in general. But, no, he's telling me stuff, you know, oh yeah, I go down this, I couldn't play sports, you know. Said, oh, I'd go down there maybe on a Saturday or something, have a little time to play basketball with them, but after school I'd come home, I'd have to, you know, do the chores, milk the cows, feed the chicken, do whatever they had to do. And so, that's what Moses is trying to get across here. Do you want to read for us tonight, brother? Or do you want to?
So he humbled himself, allowed you to hunger. So he humbled you, allowed you to hunger and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make known that man shall not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that proceedeth from the mouth of the Lord. for your garments did not wear out on you, and nor did your feet swell these 40 years. Yes, should you know in your heart, as a man chastens his son, so the Lord your God chastens you.
Okay? Just imagine that. Okay? They came out of Egypt with whatever basically they could carry. Some of them had carts and wagons, so they had a little bit more. Some of them didn't. They had 1 or 2 changes of clothes, 1 or 2 pair of sandals or shoes, whatever they had. For 40 years, they wore the same thing.
Because they never wore out.
They didn't wear out. God, that's a miracle in itself.
That's what God did.
Now, I've got a 40-year-old t-shirt at home, and it looks pretty cool. Nardo tries to take it away from me sometimes and throw it away, use it for a rag, but I...
Have it framed.
Yeah, no, I don't have a front, I just comfortable, you know?
You have it framed that way she can't.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but I throw them away, I try to. But that's why everything that comes out, he's trying to remember, you walked. When we walked, they walked a lot, okay? Many miles a day, yet the feet did as well. Things like that. Just think of that. I mean, today we walk a mile or 2, and our hands start swelling up, and our feet start hurting, and everything like that. We're just, God made it available to them. And did you see what it said at first? I humbled you by allowing you to get hungry. He went so long that they could with the victuals that they had. And then they started asking God for something. They had, who else could he ask for? Moses ain't got 2 million pieces of bread on him, slices of bread or anything. So they had to ask for God. So that's what he said. And Moses is telling them, he humbled you by doing that. Same thing with the water. Yeah, they got a little out of sorts and got, a little hateful with him. And God had to put them back in their place, but God provided for them. And then when they had the food and the water, then they wanted meat. Okay? And then he made it so much that they didn't want it after that, because they didn't have that every day, every time. They didn't like quail all the time. It's just one of those things. We're never, ever satisfied.
You mean I have to eat another quail a day?
That's right. Okay, I've had toasted manna, I've had boiled manna, I have baked manna, I've had all kinds of manna. What else can they do with that
Did
manna?
it taste the same all the time?
Well,
I don't know.
when I first went to Vietnam, our chow hall wasn't fixed up, so we had spam and eggs for breakfast, spam sandwiches for lunch, and spam and potatoes.
At night.
They were powdered, instant potatoes, not like what you get today.
Yeah.
And so it was a couple of months we had that stuff, so. When Liz and I got married, we moved out to California, and one day I went in and
Buy some spam.
she
Put them back now. I don't want those spam. That's right.
I told her, I said, I don't want to see another can of spam.
Okay, we're going to skip over this part. There's a lot in there if you want to read about that, the next page and a half. Iris, can you read on page 3, 6 through 10 for us?
Therefore you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God, to walk in his ways and to fear him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs that flow out of the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron and out of whose hills you can dig copper. When you have eaten and are full, then you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you.
Okay. Right here, this is telling us God's not against material things. They're going to have everything that they need in the land. Now, they're going to have to go get it, and they're going to have to fight for it, but he's not against material things. If we use them the way God wants us to use them, then it's okay, because we have to have certain things. Now they were and they went out, and their spies, when they first went out, their spies got these. We remember reading about they had to carry the grapes between two guys. They were so big and so heavy. And like I said, when we would go, when we visited Israel, they had so many palm trees. It was just like a mile wide and a mile deep. They're just solid palm trees, like every 6-8 feet.
Wow.
Just huge. Some of them would be this tall, some of them would be that tall, some of them would be 20 foot tall, and they just rotate them, and keep on going. And same thing and the fruit that they get off of them, the figs were probably as big as my finger. They were huge. The carrots, they were probably 2 or 3 fingers together. They were huge, long. They have beautiful vegetables over there in their markets, just open air markets, and it's just, it's amazing because of what the land provides for them, even now. Now they had to work it. They use, wasn't it 180%? 180% of their water, they reuse it. So they use it, and then they reuse it almost 2 times.
Wow.
They collect the water, because it doesn't rain that much, what they do collect, it collects up on the roofs. They funnel it down into the basement below the apartments, and there's rock cisterns that's there. The water gets collected down there, and then they bring it back up for the apartments.
The way that's how it's filtered, right?
Well, they filter it as it's coming back up. So, and then they reuse that water. It goes out to their plants. I mean, plants that take care of it. So they know how to do it. It's also said that their land's going to have iron and copper. That's something vital to a country. They've got to have those minerals that they can use. They can use it for making wheels. They can use copper to make, the heating pots and all these different things that they can use. And it is. You go over there now, and there are many. They got a lot of natural minerals over there. Like
They have a lot of copper to make electricity.
copper, yeah, they have to have that. And of course now, those are rocks, but the Dead Sea, they are producing so much of all kinds of minerals over there out of that. They just haul that out. It's kind of like our Arkansas River down here dredging the sand. They dredge out these minerals. The salt that's in it, they break that salt down into all different minerals, because it's not just sodium chloride, it's all kinds of chloride, different types of salts. But it says, then the Lord shall bless you, then you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you. It's simple. God has given it to you. You need to bless him for that, for giving them this land. Matthew 6:3 says, but seek ye first what? The kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added to you. So that's what he's trying to tell them. Keep your focus on what's going on. We're going to get that land, and that's something that's kind of a carrot to hang out for them, to remember that that's there, and because God gave it to us. Okay, that's something to fight for. It's something in addition, not just to get, but to get the land. It's not a land that they're going to have to do a lot to. I mean, yeah, they'll have to keep it up, but it already has orchards, it already has trees, vineyards, and all these different things. Because the people that were there had those. Tammy, you want to read 11 through 17 on page 4?
Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, and his statutes, which I command you today. Lest when you have eaten and are full, and have built beautiful houses, and dwell in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, when your heart is lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, in which were fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty land where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, that he might be humble, that he might humble you, and that he might test you to do you good in the end. Then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth.
Okay. Warning them. Don't fall in the trap. You go down, and then you're happy, all these things are provided to you, and then you start forgetting, okay, that God did all this. You think, I've done this, and whatever, back and forth. That's the biggest thing, and it's pride. It gets in our way, and that's what God hates. It's one of those things. So it's if we don't continually pray and bless God that he provided for our needs, he's warning them, you're going to fall into this trap.
It's a hard thing to do sometimes when people start bragging on you, to not take it personal.
Right.
And not try. I know, I'm not, just like everybody else, when somebody comes and say, that was a great sermon, I want to say, yeah, but that was the Holy Spirit too.
Right.
I can't do that by myself.
I put the words down that he gave me.
Yeah, right.
I didn't do it. He gave me those words. So that's exactly right. So we need to say, God did it, not we did it. That's one of the things that it said. Okay, Bertha, page 5, verse 18, the top.
And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives your power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day.
Okay. And a lot of people get started, here again, that's just a warning, a lot of people get started and they are humble, they do things and they get blessed, they get rewarded, and then they get high and lifted up, high and mighty, and they kind of let their pride overrule them, or they think that they've done all this here again. But it's God who gave them the ability, the power to get wealth. He told them that that would happen. I mean, they were wealthy when they came out of Egypt, because he told them, look, you're going to need this stuff. Go and tell your neighbors, give me this, give me that. And they did, because at that particular time, the Egyptians wanted them out of there. Whatever you can, I don't want all these, the blood in the water and the lice and the flies and the frogs and the locusts. And, then finally my firstborn, get out of here. I'll give you my house. Just get out of here. So they were wealthy when they left. They had lots of gold. We saw that when they came to build the tabernacle. They put a lot of gold inside the tabernacle. They laid it over. They made the altar of gold. They made bronze, copper washing dishes, and the altar was made of brass, and all these other things that the people gave. And they still had it. Okay? They didn't give everything. Moses told them, hey, wait, we got plenty. This is more. Y'all keep what you got. So that's what he's trying to tell them. As you get that, it's not you getting it. God gave you that to begin with. So you have to keep that in mind. That's part of this covenant. Okay? What is a covenant?
A promise.
It's a promise, basically, yeah.
Like you
It's
sign.
more than a promise, but it's...
Well, but a covenant too, you sign that covenant.
Yeah.
To make sure you're going to do it.
And there's two ways.
Keeping your word.
Abraham was given the covenant. Okay? This was the first covenant. He didn't have anything to do with it. God said, I'm going to do this. He was the one, as Abraham had the vision. The calf was cut in two. God walked between there. He said, I'm going to take care of this covenant. I'm going to do all this. All you have to do is do what I tell you. There's nothing else that you have to do.
Accept it or reject it.
Accept it or reject it. That's right.
Yeah.
So, that's why he's saying, that's why I want to establish this covenant with you now. I mean, you gotta remember, this is a covenant from the very beginning. 19 and 20 says, "Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God, and follow other gods, and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish, as the nations which the Lord destroys before you. So you shall perish, because you would not be obedient to the voice of the Lord your God." What happened to their forefathers? They didn't listen. They died. Gotta get more on it. Setting up a reverb there. So, that's what he's just re-emphasizing to these people that hadn't lived this. Few of them had, but not very many. You know, there wasn't that many that's 20 years old that are now 60.
Yeah.
Most of them probably, you know, you talk about 2 million people, the turnover of 2 million people, a lot of them may not have ever heard this.
Wow.
And the last page of 6 there says, "Pride is the greatest danger in the Christian life. It is the most satanic of sins, because it was by pride that Satan himself fell. Satan prizes a proud believer over the most notorious sinner, because he looks at the proud believer and says, now that's a man just like me." Okay? That's scary. Whenever we see people like that, we have to be real careful. Okay? Continuing on to chapter 9. The battles ahead and the failures behind. "Hear, O Israel, you are to cross over the Jordan today, and go into dispossessed nations greater and mightier than yourself." Oh, that's a wonderful message there. They're bigger and they're better than us. "Cities great and fortified up to heaven, a people great and tall, the descendants of the Anakim, whom you know and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand before the descendants of Anak?" Just think of a guy that his head touches the ceiling right there. I mean, that when we talked about Og, you know, that's only about 10 foot tall. Probably out here, he's probably 12 foot tall, maybe even 14 foot. We don't know exactly how tall he was.
Wow.
Moses is here fighting that. Him and Joshua, when they're in the battle, fighting this dude and all the people that's with him. Yeah, they're bigger, they're better, but who do we have on our side? We got guys. Yeah, they were giants. They were part of the Anakim. That's what they said, the Rephaim.
You know, every one of the 10 spies, they were right
Mm-hmm.
as far as
Oh yeah.
as in the sea. You know, they're as big as giants
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
And here, 40 years later, God's telling them, look, man,
That's right.
they're bigger than you. Their cities are bigger than you. Don't have any. You know, you've got guys been living in tents.
Right. Right. They are soldiers. They are hardened soldiers, and you guys take care of cattle and sheep and stuff. But God is the one that's going to give the blessing. That's what he's telling them now. This is what you're going to do. You're going to get over there, and you've got to be careful. Don't rely on yourselves, because God's going to do it. Okay, that's what he's getting ready to tell them here in the next one. Brother Epson, verse 3.
He says, therefore understand today that the Lord your God is he who goes over before you as a consuming fire. He will destroy them and bring them down before you, so you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord has said to you.
Okay. Now, I've said all this stuff. You don't have to worry about it. I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there for you. You just follow my lead. And he didn't do it the same way. Every time, every city, the ones that we know of, they did it differently. Something happened differently. We don't want to get in a routine. Okay? Then we start thinking, oh yeah, I know how to do this. I do step A, step B, step C, and by step D, we're finished. And God's going to take care of it. Maybe you're going to have to fight a little bit this time. You're going to have to suffer a little bit this time. Or this time, no, you just break a little jar and they're going to run like crazy. Because they see those candles and they think they're overwhelmed. So that's what he's trying to tell them. And that they already have this Already, okay? They've been wandering around 40 years in the wilderness. What does all the nations around see? See these 2 million people, huge, and right in the middle of it, there's a cloud that just stays there. Night, when it turns night, it's flaming fire. I have never seen that before. It's got to put the fear out. I mean, just having that there once it happened. That's what he said. It's a consuming fire. He has been there from the very beginning when they put the tabernacle in order. It followed them, okay, across the Dead Sea. I mean, not the Dead Sea, the Red Sea. It was positioned behind them so the Egyptians couldn't come until God knew they was going to get captured. So then he let it up, and the Egyptians came across. But it didn't matter. God had it all planned out.
Yeah.
So it tells them, you're going to destroy them, and you're going to destroy them quickly. There's sometimes we see this. They go against Jericho. Jericho's got walls that's, I don't remember how thick it is. It's probably half as thick as this room. I can't remember exactly what it was. And tall. And all they had to do was march around it. And cry out when God told them to cry out. Blow their horns and blow their trumpets. So, he's telling them, he's a consuming fire, you're going to have to wipe these guys out because, and it goes through, I don't know if it's in this one, but in another commentary, in the bottom part of this, it talks about here, this page 8, it talks about them, destroy them quickly. God did not want the Israelites to show mercy to the Canaanites. Now, Canaanites is a all-encompassing word because there were like 7 different tribes. That if we go back and look at them, he told them, you're going to wipe these guys out. These guys, these guys, these guys, these guys, these guys, these. Because, why? The archaeologist said in his book From Stone Age to Christianity, it describes the primary focus of Canaanite religion was sex. The featured idols recovered by the archaeologist are hundreds of nude female forms and sexually suggestive forms, as well as male idols associated with homosexual cults. Thus the Canaanites, with their orgasmic nature worship, their cult of fertility in the form of a serpent, symbols and sensuous nudity, and their gross mythology were replaced by Israel. So that's what they had to fight against. As far as he was trying to tell them, you don't get into that. We've got to wipe all that out. That way you don't have any part of that. And where did they get? They call them the Canaanites because of why? Ham's grandson's name was Canaan.
Was what?
Canaan.
Okay.
If you go back and look.
Oh my God.
Yep. That's where a majority of this came from. In this area, that's where the Tower of Babel, established, and all those things. It all goes back to that. That's why God wanted them, that pride. They wanted, when the flood happened, then they came back, and Nimrod in his tower, he was going to build a tower so tall that the flood wouldn't touch. We're going to outprove God. Whether he thought it was God or not, I don't know, but so that's where a lot of these came from. All right. You want to read 4 through 6? Iris?
Did not read it?
He did. He just had a short one. Lucky you.
Do not think in your heart, after the Lord your God has cast them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness the Lord hath brought me in to possess this land. But it is because of the wickedness of those nations that the Lord is driving them out from before you. It is not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you go in to possess their land, but because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord your God drives them out from before you, and that he may fulfill the word which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore understand that the Lord your God is not giving you this good land to possess because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh.
Ouch.
Yeah, you're not getting this out of the kindness of my heart. We need to get rid of these people. I tried, and he could have wiped them out, okay? But he wants help from his people to do that, okay? Because they had taken over this land, because they went to Egypt and given up their land, basically. He wants help from them. But he's already said, look, your forefathers have already proved this. You turned away from me several times. So you've proved that you can't be responsible.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like the righteousness of Abraham. These guys aren't righteous. But because of Abraham, because of that covenant, as we talked about before, because of this covenant, I'm keeping that covenant now. So don't you get to high and mighty that you're the ones that's doing all this. I have a purpose in this. I want to get rid of these people.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible, doesn't it? But when
Well,
it's
there's a reason, though.
there are reasons, but God had a
Because
specific
they're gonna be
thing.
hard-hearted and not change ways.
Right,
Because
Right.
they refuse to.
yeah. They've gone away from it a long time.
And the Lord, he's not gonna force them, so.
Stiff-necked is figure of speech for stubborn, intractable. I don't know what that word is. Obdurate. I never heard of that before. And hard-headed. That pretty well sums it up.
Yep.
The idea that Israel, like a rebellious domestic animal, would stiffen its neck against the yoke of God that he would put upon it, they would not submit to God's direction in their life. It's kind of like putting a mule and an ox together. That don't work. You got to put two of the same. Okay, either two mules or two oxen or two cows or whatever, because they just don't work there together. And that's what he's saying. I'm trying, and that's why he had to give them the commandments to begin with. You've got to have these set of rules, because you're going off on what the Egyptians said and what they did and their gods that they served. No, I don't want that. You've got to have some new rules, and that's why he gave them those rules. And he's doing it stepwise. You know, if you take something, a first grader going into or pre-K or kindergarten, whatever, you don't teach them calculus. You don't teach them differential equations. They got to learn how to read. They got to learn their alphabets, their 1, 2, 4s. You know, they got to learn. So it takes them a while, and they step up. And to me, that's why God did it this way. He was trying to push upon these people. Yeah, you need these commandments. Yeah, you know. And now people say, why is he going against the law? He's taking those and putting them in our heart. Jesus fulfilled that by putting them in us. And once we know him, oh, that's wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Don't nobody have to tell you that, because it's there. Now, when those people get so seared over, their conscience seared over that it doesn't bother them, that's a problem. And that's what happened with these people. He's like, I gotta get rid of them, because they're just gonna bring you down. If you try to go and live with them, they're gonna tear you down. You're not going to serve me. Okay, 17.
Remember, do not forget how you provoked the Lord your God to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that you departed from the land of Egypt until you came to this place. You have been rebellious against the Lord.
Boy, he just slapping them up one side and down the other, isn't he? He's not letting up there. You've been rebellious against the Lord. The same idea is communicated in 1 Corinthians 10 and 12. Therefore let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. You know, we think we're so high and mighty, and whoop, our feet get knocked out from under us. We're not. When we remember our sinful nature, we walk in the poverty of spirit Jesus said was essential to a life of blessing. Like Mike said the other night, yes, we are sinners, But we've been saved by grace, and now I'm a child of God. Don't have to worry about being sin. Sin's there. Sometimes it trips me up a little bit, but I know where to go. I'm going to read this because it's a long one. Save your birthday. Yeah.
Also,
Oh, I'll read it. I'll
Oh,
read it.
sorry.
That way you don't have to. Also in Horeb, you provoked the Lord to wrath. Now that's, he said, you started out over here, went 40 years, and you're here. All I heard was complaining the whole way. Now he's going to get specific, okay? Also in Horeb, you provoked the Lord to wrath, so that the Lord was angry enough with you to have destroyed you. He was going to make a new nation out of Moses. When I went up into the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant, which the Lord made you, then I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water. Then the Lord delivered me, 2 tablets of stone, written with the finger of God, and on them were all the words which the Lord had spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me the 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant. Then the Lord said to me, Arise, go down quickly from here, for your people whom you brought, boy, he's getting kind of specific here, out of Egypt have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded image. Furthermore, the Lord spoke to me, saying, I have seen these people, and indeed they are a stiff-necked people. Let me alone, that I may destroy them and blot their names out, blot out their names from under heaven. And I will make of you a nation mightier and greater than they. So I turned and came down from the mountain. The mountain burned with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, you had sinned against the Lord your God, had made for yourselves a molded calf. You had turned aside quickly from the way which the Lord had commanded you. Then I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of the 2 of my hands, and broke them before your eyes. And I fell down before the Lord, as at the first 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water, because of all your sin which you committed in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure with which the Lord was angry with you, to destroy you. But the Lord listened to me at that time also, and the Lord was very angry with Aaron, and would have destroyed him. So I prayed for Aaron also at the same time. Then I took your sin, the calf which you had made, and burned it with fire, and crushed it, ground it very small until it was as fine as dust, and threw its dust into the brook that descended from the mountain. So he's rehashing probably the worst of the worst. Okay? And that was just in that first year. They hadn't even done anything else. We learn a lot of things about here, okay? Written with the finger of God, the original tablets, okay? The second time around, I think you go back and read, and it said Moses actually wrote them. He actually wrote them down. So, the first tablets was written by God. He wanted to make him, Moses, a mightier nation. Now, they looked up there, and they saw the mountain was on fire, okay? They couldn't see anything. They said, why in the world is Moses going up there? He's dead. He's up in that blaze and that fire and everything. He's dead. So they changed their tune right away. And to Aaron's positive, on Aaron's side, he kind of said, the people was going to kill me, basically. I couldn't go against them. They wanted me to do this, and I took their jewelry and threw it in the fire, and boy, it came out as a calf. That's a little far-fetched. But Moses fasted and prayed for Aaron, his brother. So God relented because of that. Wasn't anything Aaron did. Aaron did the wrong thing. But Moses interceded. That's a type and a shadow, okay, of what Christ did for us. He interceded for his brother. Then he took that calf and he smashed it to smithereens and ground it to powder and strode it out on the brooks.
wow.
And it actually, if you go back and look at it, he said he made them drink of it. It was their drinking water.
probably worth quite a bit of money.
Oh, it was. It was, I don't know how big, you know, we watched that Promised Land, and it's about this big, that idol. But it could have been, you know, it may have been real small. They didn't have to have big idols, it was just something that was there. And it didn't have to be 10 foot tall and all this stuff. Let's see, we burned it to fire. Okay, the last place, he did all that because to show this God was nothing and could be destroyed easily, he completely obliterated that idol and then make the people pay an immediate consequence of their sin. Okay? That's to set in their minds, you don't ever do this again.
Well, they had to learn the hard way. 'Cause
Well, they did.
They wouldn't soften their heart.
That's right. Okay, now you can read if you want to, 22 to 24 verses.
You wanna help me with the names?
You can kind of take your best guess.
Also at Tebra and Massa and Kilbrook, Hadroth, you provoked the Lord to wrath. Likewise, when the Lord sent you from Cash's barns, saying, Go up and possess the land which I have given you. Then you rebelled against this commandment of the Lord your God, and you did not believe him or obey his voice. You have been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you.
Okay, these are all places that they had traveled, and these locations are the ones that they gave them, and you can go back and look at what it was. Massa was the one where they was wanting water, okay? Kibroth Hattaavah, I'd have to go look it up, but one of them was manna. They were crying out for manna, okay? One of them was crying out for meat. Each one of these, he's saying, from the very day I met you, you've been complaining. You complain. And it actually says Massa, it means tempted. Okay, in Exodus 17:7, it describes the naming of the place Massa. Then it says underneath Tabra, it means burning. When the people of Israel first left Sinai to head toward Kadesh Barnea in the Promised Land, they immediately complained, and God sent fire down. Okay, to burn them up. That's in Numbers 11. In Massa, we talked about, that's where the water was. The name means graves of craving, and was the place where Israel longed for meat. That's what I thought it was, instead of the manna. So each one of these, like I said, we couldn't get any farther. As soon as he gave them whatever it was, that's all they wanted. Until the next time. They got satisfied for a short period of time, but then they started complaining about something else. And then something else. And then something else. That's what he's saying. You haven't stopped. That's why that when they finally came to go over to the Promised Land, I told you to go and go over there and take it. And 10 of you said no. Yeah, we can go over and do that. The land's just like it, but there's only 2 of them that said, yeah, we can do it. The other 2 said, no, it's too big. We can't do that. That's why they had to travel around for another 38 years. Okay, to get to 40 years in the wilderness.
Don't you know, if you were, say, one of them that was about 40 and you remember quite a bit of it, and you're standing there after you've been drug around in the wilderness for 40 years, and God tells them, you know, about what, you can't do this, but I'm going to do it for you. And then when it's done, he's thinking, we could have done this for you.
That's right. 40 years ago, just listen. It's like, good night. Take a shortcut here. Thank Joshua and Caleb, especially, for sure. And 25 through 29. Thus I prostrated myself before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. I kept prostrating myself because the Lord had said he would destroy you, the people. Therefore I prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord God, do not destroy your people and your inheritance, whom you have redeemed through your greatness, whom you have brought out of Egypt, and with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not look upon the stubbornness of this people, or their wickedness, or their sin, lest the land from which you brought us should say, because the Lord was not able to bring them to the land which he had promised them, and because he hated them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. Yet they are your people and your inheritance, whom you brought out by your mighty power and by your outstretched arm. Okay? Now that's not saying that God had a purpose. He had a plan. But when somebody, some kid, you ever been on an airplane and there's a kid behind you and he keeps hitting the seat, kicking the seat, and kicking the seat, and you just want to turn around and knock the snot out of him. Yeah. And that's what God's telling them here. He just, why? You guys aren't listening. Quit doing this. But he's saying, I'm not going to do that. God's not that type of God. He had made a promise, and he wants to bring his people out. But he said, just give me a little bit of light. Just obey me one time. It's almost what it is. And they do. Okay, the next time when Moses dies and they go across to Jericho, they obey him.
It's almost like they think they're right all the time.
Well, it is. But even in Jericho, one of them slips up. Okay, we'll get there eventually, but and the next time they don't. So it's just like they can't learn. They don't want to learn. Okay?
That's what they call set your ways for sure.
That's just like us, though. I mean, it is so much. We get there and then we think, okay, I can do it on my own now. I can take care of myself. This last part is pretty good. We can seek the mercy of God and power of God through prayer by praying with the same heart and by pleading the same reasons before the Lord. Prayer on solid reasons like these is far more effective than merely casting wishes up towards heaven. Because of God's past faithfulness to us, because of his past faithfulness to our forefathers, because of his own glory and reputation among the nations, and because we are his people. Keeping these things in mind is also a way to refine our prayers. When we pray only for the things consistent with God's glory, we have our hearts set on the right things. A lot of times we want, sure would be nice when that mega million's coming up and we'll get $1 billion. Yeah. How are you going to spend that? It's things like that. We get in ourselves. It sure would be nice to do this or have this. Anyway, I can go on and on. That's just glad y'all made it out. We'll
Thank you for teaching.
see you next Wednesday.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So how come Moses didn't get to go to the promised land